Welcome back. It's me, Lou. So for today's drawing, I kind of wanted to revisit some of my older drawings and kind of evaluate kind of how I want to progress in terms of my art style. Because I kind of feel like looking back, some of my drawings, I don't know. It's not that I couldn't perform in front of the camera, but my older drawings that I started doing on YouTube, they felt very rushed. And then with the last few drawings I've done the past month, I was a little bit more relaxed and kind of took my time, and the results of the drawings were a lot better. And I think for today's drawing, I kind of want to take that approach where maybe I'm going a little bit more slower, being a little bit more deliberate and methodical about how I draw things. For example, let's compare some of the early artwork with the stuff I've been doing recently. Like, here's a drawing of Wolverine I did back in February of 28th. And I think I did this drawing, I want to say, maybe anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour, if I remember correctly. And I remember I just kind of felt kind of hurried and a little bit kind of rushed. And the drawing's nice and all that, but looking back at it now, there's stuff I'd definitely change about it. And there's stuff I really like about it. But when I compare it to some of my newer drawings, for example, there's the G.I. Joe scrap iron character I did recently and the portrait of the Predator. I really like how the line work here is a lot more cleaner. And the presentation's just a lot nicer. It doesn't, just by looking at the drawings, you can tell they're not rushed by any means, and the result's nice. Like, I like this. The scrap iron drawing, I'm kind of torn because it's kind of boring looking. He's not like he's in a dynamic pose or anything like that. He's just here. But I was just really, happy with the final look of the drawing. The line work's very clean. It's very organized. It just looks nice. It doesn't have that kind of rushed, hurried kind of look like this might have, which isn't a bad thing. But I'd like to do. I'd like to draw something with this kind of energy and excitement, but at the same time, something that also has this kind of refinement to it. So I think for today's goal is, kind of meet somewhere in the middle. So I have something that's exciting to look at, but at the same time, it's gonna be rendered a little bit nicer, a little bit more, maybe more on a professional, somewhat level. So we'll do that today. And I think I kind of have an idea of what I want to draw. So. Yeah, let's just work on that. So going back, I like that drawing of Wolverine, and I think I draw Wolverine a lot, and I kind of feel like, I don't know, I'm just like cheating people if I just keep on drawing Wolverine. But I mean, I've only done one Wolverine drawing for this YouTube channel, so I don't think it'll hurt if I do another one. So I kind of have this pose in my head. I want this to look a little bit more exciting than the last Wolverine I did. And it's like I said, I also want it to look a lot more refined in terms of the way the drawing's finished. So I have no idea if this video is going to take me an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. So if I have to, I might break it up into separate parts, but I hope it doesn't come to that. But I would like to produce a drawing that looks a lot more quality than what I've done lately. So let's start. Okay, I'm just gonna ground the drawing first. I just want to get the head placed in. I kind of have an idea of what I want to see in this drawing. And one thing you'll notice right off the bat, with me placing the head, it's a lot smaller than what I normally draw. So I want that to be indicative of the kind of feel I'm going for this drawing. Like, I want to fit more of the character in here. Right now I don't want to concern myself on whether or not the anatomy is perfect. I just want to just get the bulk shapes in. So Wolverine's a very burly looking kind of character. Depending on what source material you're reading, he can stand anywhere between 5'3" to 5'6", and I mean those are both short heights. So I'm gonna kind of keep my character kind of stocky. So I'm going to have my Wolverine kind of hunched over. The pose is somewhat reminiscent of the pose I drew for my Spider-Man, where he's kind of leaning a little bit forward, a little hunched over. So I'm just trying to get the arms drawn in right now. I might play around with exaggerating the proportions a little also. I want to see if I could make them look a little bit more dynamic, breathe a little bit more life into them by exaggerating his proportions, make them seem a little bit larger than life. Okay, so so here's his upper arm and his shoulder, and then here's his bicep. It's a very large circle right now, because I'm kind of just seeing things into shapes. And I think for this drawing, I really kind of want to play with the foreshortening. Which is, right now in my head, is kind of tricky, because I'm not sure where his fist is going to go. I'm not sure if I want this arm kind of coming at you, or if I want to kind of like bend it at the elbow. Let's just try to make it up as I go along. Alright, so this is going to be his wrist. We'll see that his arm is going to be over here. Yeah, we see that's his elbow, his tricep muscle. His forearm might be a little too long. Let's pull this in. Now, when I was growing up drawing and learning how to draw like superheroes and stuff like that, there was always this, I mean, it holds true today. You always want to make sure that you know, what you're drawing underneath. Like if you're drawing a character, you know, if you're drawing like a skeleton underneath, or like a stickman figure, where anything that's going to help convey the gesture and pose, you always want to make sure that that's as dynamic as possible. Because even if you draw, if it's rendered out beautifully, if the figure underneath the drawing looks kind of blah, it's not gonna really matter if your character is rendered and it looks like, you know, like the most beautiful thing in the world. If your character is just kind of just sitting there and it's not doing anything for you, it's kind of pointless. So right now I'm just trying to make sure that I have a pose here that I could work with. And it's tricky. It's really tricky right now because I don't know. I think this early on, I think I've kind of, in this drawing, I think I might have painted myself into a corner. I don't know yet. It's always easier and in your best interest to kind of block out the shapes too. That way you'll have an idea of where stuff's going to go and if it's going to cooperate with the rest of the drawing. Yeah, I'm entering some weird, I don't know. I'm starting not to feel like I'm like losing something here. Alright, so his knuckles are going to be here. And then his fist. I never really learned how to sketch lightly either. Growing up, I always felt like I had to commit to every line I drew, so I just always just sketched really hard, and I was always heavy on the pencil. I'm always envious of artists who could kind of just like feather their lines and, you know, with almost like kind of like a whisper's touch. I'm always just really heavy-handed with the pencil and the pen. I don't really know. Like I'll go in really hard and just make a mess of everything. I kind of feel like I'm doing that right now. I think it's not. There's something about this. I might have. All right, this is looking. It's looking okay, but it's also looking weird. So I'm not feeling this 100% yet. Okay, I'm kind of liking the hand a little bit. Could use some work. What would help right now is if I had a mirror in front of me to like try to figure out some of the gesture for his hand. I might be making a mistake now because right now I'm just kind of fleshing in the muscles, the muscle groups in his arm, like his forearm muscles and everything. But I don't know, that's kind of telling me at this point maybe I'm committing to this pose and I'm just going to make it work. Yeah, I think I might commit to this pose right now. His claws are going to be kind of tricky though because I'm worried they're going to cover over parts of his face. If this drawing comes out perfect, cool. It's not going to be perfect, I can tell you that right now. But I mean, if it comes out a little bit flawed, I'll deal with it. But Okay, I could kind of live with this arm. It's not perfect. There's some things here that bother me about it, but it'll have to do. I remember once hearing before, when it comes to drawing anatomy, it doesn't have it. You know, it doesn't. The anatomy and the musculature doesn't have to necessarily look realistic. But if you could draw it to the point where it looks like it's a solid mass, it'll kind of work, and you can kind of fake your way around it. And that's what I'm going to try to do here. I'm just going to try to fake my musculature right here. Alright, Wolverine has those little kind of those caps on the top of his hands. They're kind of like those sheaths for his claws to extract it out of. But I gotta really figure out how I'm gonna do his claws. It's like I said, I think I kind of painted myself here into a corner, because regardless of what I do for the claws, it's gonna come over the face. And I don't want to block his face out completely. Let's get the middle claw in at least. If I can at least figure out where the middle claw is going to go, I think the other ones will follow. And let's get the other one. Falls between this knuckle here. And then the third knuckle, claw is going to extract this way out. And it's going to look a little bit shorter because of the foreshortening, so. Alright, so I like the claws right now. Alright, the claws are working for me. I can move this one up a little. It's not gelling with the other ones. Alright, that's alright. Might be too long. Let me shorten it just at least a little bit. This is the phase of the drawing I hate the most too. Anytime I just catch myself erasing a lot, I'm like, this is kind of a tell that I'm like not. Like, I'm just unsure of what I'm doing right now. But I want this to work. I want this to work. I want this to look very different than not only what I would draw, but like if you saw a very comic book looking illustration of Wolverine, I want it to look a lot different than what you expect to see in a comic book drawing. Not that I want it to look like very unconventional, but if you read comic books or you draw comic books or if you look at a lot of comic book art, after a while stuff just looks very formulaic. And I kind of, for me, it's like, that's the thing. I kind of want to be able to break from the formula and just draw something it's a little bit different. You know, you can when you look at it with fresh eyes for the first time, it's like, oh, I haven't seen that before. Because it's like when you look at Spider-Man, he's been drawn so many times in every single way. And, you know, a lot of artists, you know, not taking anything away from them, but I think after a while, a lot of stuff just kind of becomes derivative, even if you're doing it on a subconscious level. You know, it might be just drawing, you know, for example, Spider-Man or Batman in a way that you've seen before or that you're familiar with, and then you just kind of stick within that groove, and then the drawing just becomes very predictable. And I don't want this to look predictable. Even for my own work, I don't want this to look like, oh, this looks like Lou's usual fare. I kind of want to make this look a little bit different than what I'd normally draw or my approach to it. So here, the head has been compromised. I've lost the face. So I'm gonna have to I'm gonna come back, erase the head, and kind of figure out another way I could draw the face, and yet not lose any of the, hopefully any of the kind of like excitement I have in the composition so far, if there is any at this point. Okay, let's erase this face. Start all over with the head. I don't want to erase the ball of the neck just because I kind of want to keep the rest of the body in place. I just have to reposition the head. Yeah, let's have his head coming, maybe looking more at you. Okay, I kind of like this. I'm having the face come at you, like he's looking at you head on. As opposed to before, I had the head kind of turned and facing this way, whereas now I want the face to come at you. So I'm kind of happy with the face. Let's get a little bit more of the structure put in here for his neck and his... his neck and his the pit of his neck, and where it connects to like the upper part of his chest and shoulders. Part of the reason why I'm drawing this also is I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was mentioning about how for my drawing she thought it was kind of cool how, you know, I was trying to always improve upon my stuff with every drawing I did, and in the last two drawings it kind of felt like I was just going backwards. It's like I wasn't really challenging myself. I think I was just doing those videos more so for the sake of just trying to like get a video in, even though I wasn't really completely feeling it. But you know, at that point I'm kind of it's defeating the purpose of why I kind of wanted to do this to begin with, because I told myself early on, it's like I wanted to make sure that, you know, I grow as an artist, as an illustrator. And if I'm not challenging myself, if I'm just kind of stuck just drawing the same things over and over again, without, you know, exiting my comfort level, I'm not really progressing. So it's like, for me, it's like, what's the point? You know, I really want to do this and feel like I'm getting something out of it. Especially if I'm doing this as a video and I'm sharing it with people. You know, if you're investing your time in watching this, I want to make sure that the content I'm putting out, it's actually something where you want to check out and something you want to watch. And you don't feel cheated out of. Like, I know for me and my YouTube viewing habits, I always feel kind of cheated when I watch a video and then the content creators just kind of resting on their laurels or just putting out the same thing over and over again. And I mean, granted, I'm kind of guilty of doing that too. If you look at, I'm just drawing the same things over and over again. But if you're not challenging yourself, which I'm trying to do for this drawing, I don't think I'm just doing myself a really big disservice, because the goal essentially for me is I want to improve as an artist, and at the same time I want to be able to share what I'm doing. And if I'm just falling into the same old habits, it's like, what's the point? And make sure that you're getting something out of this, I'm getting something out of this. And I'm looking back, a couple videos back, I drew that weird, what was it, Fred the Alien, and I'm looking at it at the time I had fun drawing it because it was just enjoyable to draw. But I'm looking at it and I'm like, geez, that's such a lazy drawing. It's like, quit being so friggin' lazy and actually put some effort into this. So that's what this is. This is me trying to put some effort into my work. Yeah, so for the goal for this is I want to produce something that if you saw it, you'd be like, it's going to pull you in. It's dynamic. It's eye-catching. It's everything you kind of want to see in a video and in a drawing. I don't want to be guilty of one of those people that's just kind of like just drawing something simple and sticking within my comfort zone. I want to really put something out there that's like, wow, that looks freaking awesome. So that's what I'm going to try to do with this drawing. So like I said, I don't know how long this one's going to take me. I'm not sure if this is going to be like a one-part deal or 2 parts or whatever. But I do know I want to produce something that I could be really, really proud of and fall back on that mindset where it's like every drawing has to outdo the last one. I don't want to fall into this weird rut of everything just kind of blending in and looking the same. So if I could pull that off for this drawing, awesome. That's like I said, I don't know if how I don't want to say accurate, but if if the anatomy is gonna look a little wonky on this, it might come up. There's gonna be some flaws and imperfections in this drawing for sure. There's no way around that. But if the final result could really grab you, that's my goal right now. I kind of feel like I have to make up for the last 2 drawings I did. The scrap iron was nice. I enjoyed drawing that because I'm very fond of G.I. Joe and that character a lot. And I love the final rendering. I thought it was very clean. And the Predator drawing I drew before that, I love that so much. This came out a lot nicer than I thought. And I'm like, I gotta amp things up to that level. I want this to look like a really nice illustration. Alright, let's start getting the rest of them drawn in. And already I'm very happy that this isn't just like a really tight portrait or a close up on the guy's head and I'm just rendering out his upper torso without giving much thought. This one I'm putting a little bit more thought into it than I normally would, and so far I'm liking the results. I think there's gonna be some errors in the anatomy and some stuff might look kind of off, but for right now, in terms of energy the figure's conveying and the pose, and I'm liking this so far. But really, we're still very early on. I still have to get to the rendering portion of the drawing where I have to start fleshing things out. I mean, the finer details. Right now it's just all about the block shapes and trying to make heads and tails of everything. I've said this before, I just enjoy drawing the Wolverine character a lot. He was definitely one of my favorite Marvel superheroes, if not one of my favorite heroes. Visually, the character is just, I just love the way they look. He's very, stocky, muscular build. And he borderlines on one of those things where he can exaggerate the proportions and make it look a little bit imperfect, and it just fits the character. Whereas if you're drawing something like Superman, he has to kind of embody that kind of like Greek stature and those heroic proportions of a figure. Whereas Wolverine, since he's kind of a runt to begin with, it doesn't matter if he's a little bit off. The worst thing about not placing, like I'm with this fist I'm drawing right now, if you don't place a solid, decent underdrawing underneath it to figure out the skeleton, it's going to end up doing what I'm doing right now, where I'm just constantly erasing and tweaking and bending the lines until it kind of looks right, which isn't going to necessarily produce the best thing. You're not going to get a very clean looking, like I'm not, this arm's gonna look like shit. Whoops, it's gonna look like crap. So right now I'm just kind of in the phase of just trying to like salvage it, because I should have really planned this out a little bit better. I'm very impatient as an artist also. I'm very guilty of this like hurrying things along, because right now I really want to get to the part where I pull out the Sharpie pen and the black marker and just get to town on this. For me, that's my favorite part of the drawing, because that's where I actually start fleshing it out and committing to my lines, and the drawing starts to make sense to me. When I'm in the pencil, I'm very backwards. When I'm in the pencil phase, it's a lot harder for me to see the drawing. Whereas, you know, this the most crucial part of the drawing is being able to see the drawing for what it is right now. And I always have a hard time doing that. It's not perfect, but I'm gonna live with this. I think this is enough to get by. Parts of it look kind of weird to me, but I don't want to dwell on this one too long. Or I mean, I don't want to dwell on this part of the body too long. So on the top of Wolverine's boots, he has these like, they almost kind of mirror his mask. There's these like horns, or I can't really describe them, that kind of like protrude towards near the top of his boot and above his knee. So that's what these things are. And let's kind of, they're going to come off a page, but it'll give you the impression that he has his claws retracted on both hands. All right, so I could commit to this pose. I could get behind this. It's working for me. Already, it's a lot more dynamic than the previous drawing. So here's the previous drawing. It's very static. You know, here he is just flexing his arm, and I love the glove. That's like my favorite piece on this whole drawing. I love how I rendered out the glove. I kind of hate the way I did the face. It's too cartoony. The hair is okay, but it's like I said, for the time I drew this, in the time and space I drew this illustration, it worked for me, but I know I can do better. And that's what I want to do here. If I could make this look better than the previous one, you know, mission accomplished. This Wolverine costume, though, I'm going to go with his other costume that doesn't have the shoulder pads. I don't want the shoulder pads on there. And I might go with the masked version of Wolverine. Just because this would change things out. Just because I did the previous one without the mask. But we'll see. I might change my mind. I'm going to start placing out where his facial features are going to be. And if I'm happy with that, I'll do that. Okay. Where's eyes? Let's get his eyes in here. Alright, this eye doesn't look right. I like this eye. I'm trying to place the other eyes I kind of drew a line that kind of guides me on like where the eye level is going to be, but it's following it. It's just not gelling in my head. It seems like every time I draw this one eye that I'm working on right now, it just doesn't seem right. It either seems too long or slightly off. Okay, I can live with this one. This one looks alright. Alright, let's figure out where his nose is going to be at. Is that working? I can't tell. His nose, part of me says that his nose could be a little bit longer and a little bit more narrower, but I think I like a really not big nose, but I kind of like I think a little bit more meatier nose on my character, especially if the character's more of a brawler, which Wolverine is. Now, do we want his mouth closed? Do we want him yelling? Do we want him snarling? Do we want his teeth all like, I don't know, like it's biting down and like just looking mad and angry, or I don't know yet. Do we want him to look a little bit more feral? Yeah, let's have his mouth open. I kind of see it. I'm kind of liking what I'm seeing in my head. Let's give him an open mouth. You're not gonna see all his teeth though and stuff because of the claws are in the way. But I think I kind of see this. Wolverine's very animal-like, so I always like to give my Wolverine kind of like fangs. And I've seen other artists do it too. So. All right, let's pull that in just a little bit, not that far out. kind of wish I could see his whole face, but the way I kind of laid out this drawing, I'm just, you know, really gonna get this much of him, just because his claws and his fists are kind of like shooting in front of it. Alright, Wolverine. Wolverine's a very animated character in every sense of the word. I love the way he looks. He's kind of... You just kind of know what he's thinking, just looking at him all the time. I don't want to say he wears his heart on his sleeve kind of character, but you could definitely catch the emotion and the draw of his character every time you see his face. Now, I gotta figure out, where's his chin? Where the hell is... See, I wouldn't run into this problem if I laid out the head correctly in the first place, but since I kind of made this up as I went along, I'm losing where his chin should be. I think his chin's here. That's the hardest thing right now is this, like, it's like no matter what I do for a chin, it makes his face look too long. Let's just connect that line. All right, don't lose place of his neck. Let's try figure out where his jaw is going to be. Okay, now do I want Wolverine to be unmasked or masked? Let me think about that for a little bit. While I'm thinking about that, let's just touch a couple of things up here. I'm going to pull this arm just a little bit down by a bit. It didn't look right. Okay, this look better. Drawing Wolverine with his mask is always kind of a crapshoot for me because I never get it right. He has on his mask he has these kind of like wings that flail out, and if you don't draw it right, it looks like some sort of weird tweaked version of Batman. But then if you draw him too big and off in the wrong angle, it throws everything off, and I never know how it properly conforms to his the rest of his head. And you figure after like reading X-Men comics for like, I don't know, 30 years, I'd figure it out by now, but I just don't. I don't know, maybe we should just go with him unmasked. Alright, I'm also trying to figure out right now if I want to give him eyeballs. Yeah, let's give him eyeballs. Let's give him eyebrows too while we're at it. Can't figure out. Do I want to? All right, let's go without. Let's go with the mask. I think for me it'll be more of a challenge if I draw it with the mask. And you know, if the goal for me is to improve as an artist and challenge myself, we'll go without the mask. I don't want to. I don't want just to be lazy about this and just opt out and go towards the easiest thing. Okay, so we'll draw the mask, which is right now. It's not easy feat because it's hard for me to make sense of this right now. I never understood why the last superheroes wear masks to begin with, because it made sense for some characters because they have very important like secret identities, like Batman's like billionaire Bruce Wayne, and Superman's the mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent, and Wolverine. It's not like he's anyone important on the outside, unless you want to count his mobster gang character Patch, or whatever it's supposed to be. Where his mask there is, he just wears an eye patch, But then again, with Superman, it's kind of like Clark Kent. The only difference between that is he's just wearing, eyeglasses. All right, so this is the part that always f's me up. Like I'm trying to draw this mask, and I can never get these forms right. It's like if I go off too far, it looks weird. If I don't go far enough, it looks weird. Trying to kind of look somewhat symmetrical is like a issue also. So this is a mess. Yeah, they're too far out. I gotta shorten them a little. I'm just looking too short. Now, if you're wondering why I keep on flipping the drawing upside down, sometimes if you want to see if something's drawn correctly, symmetrically, like especially if you're drawing like a circle or a head coming straight at you, you know, at a forward view. It sometimes helps to flip things or look at things either upside down or in a mirror, because then you can kind of tell if what you're drawing is symmetrical or not, or if like a curve's off. And that's what I'm doing every time I kind of like flip the drawing upside down. That's one. Not that it needs to be perfectly symmetrical, but it doesn't hurt. I think there's that rule too when it comes to like people's faces. I think there's been a study saying that like people with more symmetrical faces are considered to be more attractive than people with asymmetrical faces. Right, is this gonna win me over? Are we there yet? We're almost there. All right, this part of his head kind of looks like, I don't know, it's like dented in a little. I have to like raise the peak on it just a tad, or at least trying to change the curvature of it. Okay, I think I'm almost happy with this. I'm almost there. Almost there. Okay, I want to pull. It looks like this one's shooting out a little bit more than this one. This one's kind of coming too close in. So we'll just slightly shoot that one out a little bit. Claws kind of drawn in. All right, so how are we feeling about this one? Is this working for you? It's kind of working for me right now. Compositionally wise, there's all this negative space here. It's throwing me off. Not that the character needed to be perfectly composed in the middle of the page, but this negative space here is bothering me a little. Feels like I could have done something with this. Let's tighten up his shoulder a little just so I have an idea of where it's going to be. Okay, I think I like this. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to call this part 1. So this is part 1 of possibly a 2 or 3 part drawing, depending on how I do on time with you know, with the remaining parts of this. So right now, it's like I said at the start of the video, I want to do something that's really pushing what I've done so far in terms of my YouTube art. Because my YouTube art, it's not completely indicative of how I normally draw or the work I produce. I want this to look a lot more refined in the end. I want it to be really exciting, very detailed, and I think just, you know, hearing myself vocalize that, you know, that's what I really want to hit with this drawing, and hopefully moving forward. So this is going to be part 1, And then after that, part 2, we'll probably go more into the inking phase. And if that video runs too long, we'll go into part 3 if needed. And if I decide to take the drawing even further, part 4. Right now, it's not about producing, these individual drawing videos, but more so just, being able to produce a body of work that I'm happy with, and something if you're watching this as a viewer, you're not gonna feel cheated and just feel like I'm just phoning this in. I want this to actually mean something to me, and hopefully, if you view it, I want it to mean something to you as well. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this one up for now. This is part 1 of me drawing Wolverine again. Thank you for checking this out, and stay tuned for part 2. So in the meantime, take care.